Go live. We're going to give it just a minute here. We'll give it a couple minutes. I got to go grab something actually here as we go live. We put it on mute. Hey, I'm back. I'm back. Whoa, we got 2 in the chat. All right. Got 2 in the group. Can you guys hear me out there in chat land or whatever you want to call it? Let me get a drink here. Loud and clear. All right. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to get started here quick. We'll get started quick. I think, hopefully. Man. Ben the believer. Me too. All right. I'm a believer. Right? Didn't the monkeys tell us that? Then I saw her face. Wait a minute. No. And I saw his face, right? Jesus. All right. Yeah. We'll change that from the monkeys. Now I'm a believer. Yeah. No singing tonight, though. I don't want to bore you guys with that. That'd be bad. Let's go. So, it's kind of weird having a Manosphere Manvotional, and we're talking about the Proverbs 31 wife. A man be looking for, but as I think about that, I've got 3 sons, and so I want them maybe possibly at some time in the future they could look back at this video and say, "Hey, what?" Just in case I die in a motorcycle crash, which is very possible. Went racing on Sunday, dirt bike racing. Now it's probably less likely to die dirt bike racing because you might hit a tree or something, go to the hospital, but you're probably not going to die. But when we get on the road, good chance. Could be getting killed there. It's in the Lord's hands though, so I don't worry about it too much. You be careful, but it's in the Lord's hands. Driving motorcycles. There is a saying about motorcycles though, before we get to looking for a woman, maybe on a motorcycle. There's a saying, and it goes, "There are man, I messed up my own saying. There are old riders and there are bold riders, but there are no old, bold riders." Man, that's a good one to remember. That's actually Jay Leno said that. I guess he was a motorcycle enthusiast. Maybe he still is. I guess he's not dead yet. That was a good saying. You can be one or the other, but you can't be both. Anyhow, let's get it started. Proverbs 31. We're going to go in Proverbs 31. Let me bring up my notes here for Proverbs 31, but that's not going to work. I don't get rid of that. No, that's not going to work either. Whoops. All right, now I just canceled my notes. That's not good. Come on, bring my notes back up for me. No, there we go. Okay, they're back up. So we're going to be Proverbs 31. I already said that. Proverbs 31, verse. Where am I at? Verse 10. Proverbs 31, verse 10. And I'm reading NIV, but it says, "A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies." Now, the thing with that verse, this woman that every man should be looking for, trying to find before, he gets married, whatnot, is a woman of valor. I think that's what I wanted to key in the Hebrew. The word there for the wife of noble character is not necessarily the word for noble character. It's a word. Let's see, eshet chayil. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. But the Hebrew, it translates a woman of valor, which is really interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard. I've been in church my whole life, conservative churches my whole life, very traditional type conservative churches. I don't think I've ever heard a sermon from one of my pastors talking about a woman of valor and what does that mean. So let me see here. As I go down in my notes, it says this word chayil, I guess, which is the word for valor. In the Old Testament, it appears 240 to 290 times, I have in my notes. And its primary meaning. Now, again, this is talking about the Proverbs 31 woman, the woman of valor, the wife of valor. Its primary meaning in the Old Testament, when this word is used to describe something, is force or might or strength. It's most often used to describe warriors or mighty men of valor, meaning David's mighty men. You remember David's mighty men in 1 Samuel when it talks about them. It's the same word that's used to describe the wife of noble character, the woman of valor in Proverbs 31, verse 10, which to me is like, whoa. Like, I have not heard. Man, that's good. I have not heard a pastor, I don't think, ever expound on this in such a way. So it's applied to this woman, and is intentional when it applies that word to this woman. So we'd say, like, okay, what does this mean? It means she's not just this soft woman who's a leisure queen sitting at home doing not much of anything. It's not what it means. But she's a capable woman. Now, it actually, in Ruth, in the book of Ruth, that word is used for her also, the chayil, this valor, this woman of valor. And Ruth is called this by Boaz, actually, in Ruth. Let me flip over to Ruth 3:11. Maybe it might be easier if I don't flip over there, if I just like bring it up on the old computer. Hopefully I'm speaking in this mic good enough here. Where? No. Let me just bring it up. That might be quicker. Bring it up over here. It'd be Ruth 3:11. And in Ruth 11, it says, come on, bring it up here. "And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman. Okay, so there it is. So Boaz talking to, saying she is this woman of noble character. But again, the word there is valor in the Hebrew, really important. Now, modern translations often say the virtuous woman, the noble woman, noble character. Sometimes modern translations will say excellent wife, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can, if we say that, then we kind of miss that warrior type of edge to this wife of valor, this wife of noble character. Noble could just mean, hey, she's a leisure queen that sits at home and doesn't do a whole lot of anything. I don't know. But this wife of valor denotes something very different then. Let me see here. Does this though? Now, I guess maybe this is a question. You can put it in the chat. If you had a wife of valor, would that feel intimidating to you as a man? Like, I wonder if some men are looking for this soft kind of leisure queen to be sitting at home, just kind of making what is it? They make sourdough bread. That's kind of the latest trend on online, on social media or whatever. Or is that kind of what someone's looking beautiful, just like very soft and beautiful and serene, blah blah. Or would it be maybe a little intimidating to have a wife who is a wife of valor? Would you feel empowered or intimidated if you had such a wife? When I thought about that, I thought, well, it might be intimidating if she doesn't like submit to me in anything, if I have to fight her on every decision and whatnot, then yeah, it wouldn't feel that good. But if she is the easer, as I think we've talked about before, if she is the helper, as she is described in Genesis chapter, is it 1 or 2? It says, I will make a helper. So I think it's Genesis chapter 1. I will make a helper suitable for him, this easer, this helper. If her purpose, and she knows her purpose, and she realizes his purpose is to help him, and she's also a warrior queen. She is a woman of valor. That sounds pretty darn awesome to have that kind of woman in on your team as your first mate. If we take the captain and the first mate model of marriage, this lioness you're looking for, you are the lion. She is a lioness. I think we could all agree a lioness. The female lions are very capable in whatever needs to be done on the African Sahara, or maybe not the Sahara. I guess that'd be the desert. I don't know if they're that far up there in the desert. NZSW says, do you got a first name, NZSW? I don't know if I want to call you that forever. Or just make up a first name if you don't want to use your real one. It says, Boaz was no pushover and he valued Ruth. I think the strength is based on, like you say, she knows her role just like the man knows his. That's right. Yeah. Mr. Man. All right. Mr. Man. That's right. All right. We'll call him Mr. Man. He is talking about Boaz. Yeah, that's good. Shane. All right. Shane. All right. Good. Shane. Man, I had a friend in high school, Shane. He had this sweet 1970, was it like 71 Camaro. It was like a dark green Camaro. Remember Shane? Man, that was a sweet car, and had a cam in it. Just come in just loping. Man, it sounded good. Like I was kind of a pro street drive. It wasn't like a drag car, but it was more like a pro street kind of car. But man, that was a nice 71 Camaro. Remember in high school. Anyway, I don't know if you like Camaro, Shane, but I was just thinking about that. Anyhow, she she is a strong woman of valor, though. She has strength, dignity, ready for the things to come. Let me bring back the older cars. That's right. Yeah, I actually did a search on what would be the best and most plentiful classic car to buy. And in my search, it said a 69 Camaro was actually the probably the most plentiful muscle car to buy if you want to buy parts and all that kind of stuff for it. So, yeah, and maybe it'd be 69 instead of a 71. But anyway, so this woman, though, this warrior, this lioness, she is a a provider. Now, if we look at verse 14 of Proverbs 31, she is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. So we say that to me says that, she's going out and she's buying food, bringing it from afar. She's not just sitting in the home doing whatever. Now, it could say she's like I don't know, a bountiful field and she produces her food from the home or something, but it doesn't say that. So she brings her food from afar. And then, even more, verse 16 says she considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So she is a resourceful woman. She's considering things. She's in here for profit. She's making a profit. And that also, I don't hear talked about very much to young men as they're considering a wife to look for. Do they look for a woman who's a woman of valor, who is strong in business, that she can consider a piece of property and buy it, and with her earnings then she can go and plant a field? Like, she is a profitable woman, like actually making real profits enough to buy, sell, and then plant in a vineyard or a farm or whatever. So she's really resourceful. She doesn't, yeah, I mean, she's entrepreneurial. Like, I don't hear a lot of that talk about the the Christian wife in, tradcon circles, about how, yeah, she just is doing these kinds of things. Like, I just don't hear that talk much at all. And I'm wondering why, as Proverbs 31 is clearly stating, like, this is a woman who a man should really be looking to get. Now, maybe there's not many of these women around, and obviously there's not, because scripture says they're more rare than rubies, but at least you should, probably be aiming for a woman like this. And if you can't get one, then I guess, it is what it is. But I mean, Solomon also said that out of 1,000 men, he's found one good one, but out of 10,000 women, he hasn't found one good, so he that's a little misogynistic. Maybe, I don't know. Um, anyway, so she is, verse 21, this wife of noble character, this woman of valor, right here. Now, this is going to play in again. It says, when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet, right? So she has prepared herself for the hard things to come. Like, she's prepared, she's ready, she's diligent, she knows what's going on. Again, makes me think of a lioness. These female lions in the pride, like, they seem to be prepared as well for anything that's going to happen. Now, certainly the male lion provides protection for the pride, but these female lions, boy, they can really do some damage as well. It says, verse 25, that she is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Now, that again, she is clothed with strength and dignity. That does have the language of of valor, right? Again, going back to that word, what was that word in the Hebrew again? The Shail, this woman of valor. She is clothed with strength and dignity. That really sounds like a soldier or some kind of warrior there. She is we'll use the word again, lioness. All right, Shane says some teachers I've heard recently suggest a future wife must gain, not deplete his house. Oh, I like that. I like that. Hey, Shane, I'm going to get to that in a second from another verse because I was digging into another verse on that kind of idea. We'll get there in a little bit. Here's some more warrior kind of language. This valor kind of language. Um, let's see, verse 17. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. Now, obviously, a man is stronger in general than a woman because of our testosterone. Our testosterone makes our muscles grow, it makes our bones denser, and it makes our sex drive much higher than a woman's. Now, I guess women still can have a high sex drive, but not anything like a man's. They say I think the average male testosterone is, I think it's like 17 times what a woman's testosterone levels are. And testosterone is linked directly to sex drive. So, anyway, all that to say, it says she is, let me read that verse again. Verse 17. Her arms are strong for her tasks, right? The things that a woman can do, maybe not chop wood all day out, getting ready for winter. That may not be what she can do, or at least she can't do it nearly as good as a man. I'm sure there's probably some women that can swing an axe and chop a few logs, but they're not going to do it like a man can. But she is strong for the tasks that need to happen in her home. And some verses in verse 17, actually, let me pull this up, because this gets really, that's kind of a soft way to put that verse. But there are other translations of that talk about girding up your loins in verse 17. So this would be Proverbs. I can't type today. Proverbs 31:17. All right, what's that gonna go? Here we go. I don't know if we go to, so King James. Let's go old school in the King James. She girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. Whoa. Okay, now that, like, again, this is the woman of valor, right? That's the word in the Hebrew, valor, talking normally, describing warriors, David's mighty men. Same word, this woman of valor. She girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. That's pretty strong language. I don't know. Let me look if there's any other things. That's probably the strongest one. Where's the literal translation? Let me see what it has to say. Maybe it's about the same in here. I just saw that. There we go. The literal standard version says she has girded her loins with might and strengthens her arms. Wow. I mean, that's warrior language there. Now, this again is describing the woman, the wife of noble character. Just pointing out again, the wife of noble character can sound like a leisure queen. The tradcon wife that sits at home and makes sourdough bread could sound like that. But when we look at the actual Hebrew translations, the literal translations, it's the wife of valor. Again, that word, was it Shaitel? Am I getting that wrong again? Hold on a second. The Hebrew word. I'm probably putting this. Yeah. Shail, this valor. here. Um, and she has girded her loins with might and strengthens her arms. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty strong language for this woman of valor. She's not just a leisure queen sitting around at home. Right? Shane says, I used to breed dogs. The female was usually very protective of the property family, and the males didn't do a lot, but every so often the old male would assert dominion and make sure the order was maintained. Yeah, that sounds like more the lions of the pride and the lioness. Like, yeah, I kind of see that. That sounds like the male lion kind of does that type of thing. Like dogs doing the same type of thing as well. I remember one time I was at the zoo in Japan, and a friend of mine took me to this zoo in Japan. Very good looking friend of mine. Man, she was super nice too. Anyway, we're at the zoo in Japan, and they had those Japanese monkeys that are, or at least it seems like you see them, that they have like gray bodies and they have red faces, and they had a bunch of them in this big like display thing, and it was this mountain, and they were all kind of on this like this little mountain thing that was this, in the zoo, and there was probably like 20 of them in there, and there was the alpha male monkey. I don't know, baboon or whatever. I don't know. I'd probably look up what this just like. I think they're native to Japan, but anyway, they had the alpha male monkey, and then there's like all the rest of the monkeys, and it was like about every 10 minutes, the alpha male monkey would just start chasing the rest of them around, and they'd all go crazy. They just go berserk. They all make all this noise, and then it all kind of calmed down, and then but you'd notice like all the monkeys, they'd start like, picking little nits off of each other and kind of, doing things with each other and whatever. And, but they would all, you could tell they were all looking to see what the alpha male monkey was doing. They were all they were doing their thing, but they kept looking and they kept looking over. They kept looking over. And then about every 10 minutes, the alpha male monkey would go berserk again. And then everybody start running around and then they go crazy again. It was kind of odd how the alpha male monkey would just kind of control the whole situation. Maybe that's the way it should be. I don't know. I'm not an alpha male, so I don't know. I'm somewhere between beta and sigma or something. I don't know what. Anyway, I am enjoying this drink. Let's look at anyway. So this Proverbs 31 woman, she girds her loins with strength. She makes her arms strong. Man, that sounds like a lioness. And she is ready for hard work. Strength and dignity are her clothing. Again, verse 25. Her husband, wait a minute, verse 25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. And then verse 11. Now, I think I want to dig into this more a little bit later. We'll finish up and then we'll go to this one. Verse 11 says that her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. Like he really trusts her. That, and some verses say that he lacks no spoil. Like she is bringing abundance to his household. The word there, now this is really interesting. The word for abundance there is shalal, which can be translated war booty. Like she brings this abundance from her what she's doing. Like she is a woman of valor and she is bringing war booty. Actually, let me go into that a little more here. If I go over to the Hebrew in that verse 11. Let me go. I'll probably have to type it in here. Verse 31, verse 11. Let me go to the King James. What does the King James say there? The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. Whoa. Now, That's what I want to dig in a little more, because this almost makes it sound like she is bringing, like, she is providing for the household. But I don't think that's exactly what this verse is saying, but it kind of would almost make you think that, the way that this woman of valor is just so good at what she's doing. Yeah, here we go. It said, literal standard translation says, the heart of her husband has trusted in her, and he does not lack spoil. Um, so it's talking about this spoil, almost like the spoils of war. Like you hear, she's a woman of valor. She has strength and dignity. She has girded up her loins, and she is bringing the spoil into the household. Like, when is the last time you've heard this preached in a church about young men? Look for this kind of woman. She is bringing spoil into the household, the war booty. That's like, wow. This is kind of crazy language. Like, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody actually exposit the scripture like this. Another translation, Catholic translation. Well, I don't know. Well, yeah, we'll read it. It says, the heart of her husband confides in her, and he will not be deprived of spoils. New American Bible says he does not lack income. Wow. And then the one is, and he will have no lack of gain. Like, so that's some pretty strong language here. If I look at the Hebrew, what's the Hebrew say? Um, yeah, it says, and so in the Hebrew it says, and he will lack nothing of value. That word value is spoil, plunder, or booty. Yeah, okay. So in the Strong's Concordance for that Hebrew word, okay, so that's what we're getting at there. It is, he will lack nothing of value, spoil, plunder, or booty. So it's that same language of this woman of valor is bringing plunder, spoil into the household because of her strength and dignity that she's clothed with. She has girded up her loins in this. Boy, yeah, you don't hear that much. You don't hear that very much. Yurko in the chat. Here we go. All right. Yurko says she manages his home. In this context, the homestead is quite extensive and requires a lot of work. She brings gain by managing his property. Yeah, I think that is the key there, because I was digging into, we can dig into that a little more in a bit here, because I was actually digging into that some and be like, well, does this mean that she's providing for the household? And well, anyway, I don't want to we'll dig into that in a little bit. But yeah, I think you're right, Yurko. But no, I mean, again, though, this is, the word there is like spoils of war is kind of the idea here, which is, kind of crazy. Like, you don't hear that much. Let's see. So she lacks no spoil. The shalal, which is war booty. Is that what that, actually, let me go over to my verse here. Does that say that here? Shalal. How does that, it doesn't give a, well, that says something different. All right. Anyway, I'm probably saying it wrong anyway. I don't know Hebrew. I'm just going off of the concordances. Let's see. So her husband lacks no spoil. She brings victory like abundance to his household, which is literally the language. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool stuff. This woman. I mean, no wonder why she's rarer than rubies. We find this woman. She opens her hand to the poor. So she has compassion. Her children rise up to praise her. She and she fears the Lord. Let's see. Let's go to verse 30. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but fears the Lord is to be praised. So she is not just, maybe she's beautiful. I don't know if the passage ever really says anything about her looks or her beauty. Now I'm thinking about that. It's more just about her character. Like, this woman, what is she doing? What is she bringing? She's strong. She's a woman of valor. He trusts her fully. And so that last verse 30, kind of is saying, like, her true power flows from her reverence of God, her fear of God there. And so she is a warrior like in that. Um, let me go. Let's see. We go. Yurko, what's Yurko saying here? Let me read. Also, says he needs to trust her to manage his house because he can't be there all the time since he is a city elder. Yeah, that's right. Yurko. Yeah, because it says when we look at where is he at, what is that? What verse was that when it says he is at the city gate? Oh, yeah, last verse 31. Her husband says, give her the reward she has earned and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Okay, because he's at the city gate. Where's the verse? Because I know it says her husband's at the city gate here, but where wasn't that towards the end? Um, call her blessed. I thought it was towards the end. Oh, verse 23. Her husband is respected at the city gate where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. And then verse 31, let her works bring her praise at the city gate. It's probably her husband is the one who's praising her then for her good works. Because she's a woman of valor. He can trust her. He celebrates her as a partner and even a partner. We could even say with the language that's used, this is like a partner and a warrior. Or maybe they're naval warriors where you have the captain and the first mate. I kind of like that model of captain and first mate. And, no crew wants to submit to a captain that's a crazy captain, right? So we got to make sure as men, we're not crazy captains, that we're giving clear instruction that can be followed, that isn't wacky. Sometimes people describe the captain and first mate model in marriage as no first mate wants to submit to a drunk captain, right? This captain is just like, I don't know what's going on. I think that's a good model. So let me see here. How do I want to wrap up as far as this goes here? Um, mm, 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 mm. Well, anyway, I guess just to wrap up, we're talking about this. If we recap, this is a warrior-like woman, right? She's described as a woman of valor, just like David's mighty men. Same word in the Hebrew, shayel, shayil, used as valor is Proverbs 31 woman. It's not just the wife of, I mean, the modern translations say wife of noble character, but there's a lot more in what the language that's used there, that she is a woman of valor. That talks about her strength, how she's girded her loins for almost like she's getting prepared for battle, but she's girded up her loins. She is bringing spoil into the household, almost this idea of war booty she's bringing to the household because of her strength and dignity, because she fears the Lord. She can do this. And again, she's rarer than rubies, as she's this type of woman. All right, Yurko, he says, here we go. We should probably mention that in other passages that introduce a woman, her beauty is always mentioned. Rebecca, for example. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, normally beauty is mentioned there. And we see Rebecca is working very hard when she's introduced, um, watering all the camels. I've heard one commentator describing the amount of work that would have took to water all these camels that that Rebecca did for Isaac's servants. It said it would have been like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hour venture to try to water all these. I forgot how many camels there were, but she would have been working extremely hard to do that. And I think they saw she was a woman of character then, and also very beautiful. Now, in the modern day, I don't meet very many women that are very beautiful and also extremely hard workers. Like normally, if you're a very beautiful woman, you've kind of learned that you don't have to work very hard because all these simps will just bend over backwards for you. So they'll pretty much do whatever you need that needs to be done. And so you don't have to work hard. So Rebecca would have been certainly a woman of character, being very beautiful and willing to work that hard just to water these camels. I think Isaac had some pretty good servants to pick her out of the group and say, yeah. So Shane says, I do wonder if the word translated beauty should actually be healthy. Oh, well, that's an interesting thought. Is there something in the Hebrew then when it translates that word that would indicate maybe it's something like healthy instead of beauty? Like, well, yeah, let me know on that one. That'd be interesting too. Um, so let me go then. If we talk about, so let me dig into then. Um, yeah, I would agree, Yurko, that she was no boss babe though, like we see today. Like this woman in Proverbs 31, she is, under her husband's authority, and she is working for her husband, not for some other boss. Like she is, as far as we can tell, she is in full submission to her husband, and he praises her in the gates for it. She is bringing gain into his household. Um, okay, so let's see. Shane says, in Daniel's vision, he says the seven fat cows are beautiful or something like that. Oh, okay. So kind of going to that idea that they're healthy cows, but using that same word. Okay, well that's it. Um, so let me dig into, because I thought this idea of gain, just like Yurko, you're talking about, she's not a boss babe. Because it does seem to indicate Proverbs 31:11. Um, I know I was just talking about that because I wanted to dig into that a little more. Let me go up here to, yeah, Proverbs 31:11. So the literal translation says, the heart of her husband has trust in her, and he does not lack spoil. So that, to me, when I was first digging into this, it almost gave me the idea that like she is a provider for the home because she's bringing spoil into the home, right? But as I was digging into this, it doesn't seem that that is a very accepted way to look at this verse. Um, and so when I was looking into that, it says that traditional interpretations of the verse do not primarily see it as the husband expecting direct financial gain or profit from his wife in the sense of her independently making him rich or bringing him money. Instead, the classic interpretation of this is emphasis on, trusting the overall benefits that flow from a wife's noble character, her competence and faithfulness, and the husband's confidence in her means he is secure and lacks nothing valuable, often contrasted with needing to pursue risky, dishonest spoil, plunder, or booty from war or raiding because his wife isn't managing his home properly. Um, and so in the commentary, then it says traditional understandings of this verse is that she is trustworthy in all areas, right? Her husband can fully rely on her, her integrity, her fidelity, her management of the household, and the decisions of the household. And this means that I think this was key then, he won't need to seek extra provisions um, for the household through improper means. So it means that he won't need to be cheating or going to literal war for spoil in order to provide for his household because his wife is not stewarding the finances very well. So it's, I guess, the traditional interpretation of this is that her wise stewardship preserves and even enhances what he provides or earns and brings into the household here. All right, so Yurko, you're saying that Titus 2:5 and First Timothy 5:14 are good commentaries for this. And I would say, yeah, that probably is true, but then the idea that she is a like this warrior language, she's a woman of valor. She's considering fields and buying them. She's planting vineyards. She's doing those things. That seems to go beyond what Titus 2 and First Timothy 5 are saying about a wife. Maybe I'm wrong, but it does seem to go quite a bit beyond what they are saying of just quietly working in the home. I think is Titus 2 and First Timothy 5. I have to look that one up again, but it kind of, this seems to expand way beyond that. Now maybe it's because she's, a woman of wealth. I'm not exactly sure on that, but boy, the language that's used here, this woman of valor, it's kind of warlike language. She's bringing spoil into the household. She's doing these kinds of things. Um, so also the commentary talks about household prosperity through her efforts. It says later verses show her industriousness, obviously buying fields, planting vineyards, trading profitably, making goods for sale. Her contributions support and increase the family's well being. So the husband, here's the language again, lacks no gain because of her enterprises that she's, looking into, she's doing, because the home thrives under her care. So it's saying this often is described as her making his honest gain sufficient and profitable without him needing dishonest or supplemental spoil. Now, I guess now I'm thinking about that though. If that's the traditional interpretation of this verse, that this verse is describing her making his honest gains sufficient and profitable without him needing dishonest or supplemental spoil. I I don't know if that verse is indicating that really or not. Maybe let me read that verse one more time if I can see, if I see that here. So the heart of her husband has trust in her, and he does not lack spoil. I guess that makes, maybe, I guess I could see that traditional interpretation that he trusts her with the finances that he has brought into the house. And then she, as it describes later, she is taking those finances and she is bringing gain out of them. She's considering fields and buying them. She's planting vineyards and reaping the planting and, what do you call it? Planting and reaping type of principles that we see in the Old Testament there. I mean, that could be, I guess, as well. Um, let's see, Yurko, what are you saying here? In the pastoral and agricultural context of ancient Israel, fields and vineyards was part of the inheritance or property, hence part of the home. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean there. That that is part of the home, fields, vineyards, property, that kind of stuff. All right. So that would still be considered in the home realm. Then okay. Yeah. Um, but back to the traditional understanding of Hebrews of Proverbs chapter 31, verse 11. It says in this commentary, it says broader gain. So he's talking about gain or spoil is beyond just money. It says many commentaries note that gain includes material provision, but extends to emotional security, which I guess that's seen in the verse, like he trusts her. Emotional security, peace, honor, and overall blessing. The husband lacks nothing of true value because she does him good and not evil all her days. Man, that's good. Yeah, I could see there's emotional value there. Like, boy, there's a lot of guys that I know that just they can't trust their wives with the finances. They just like, yeah, it's boy, yeah. They don't have a woman of valor in that respect here. This says older commentators such as Benson or Pulpit highlight that she managed domestic affairs so well that his honest income is sufficient and increased, and so he has no need for indirect unlawful wealth pursuits. Well, that seems like a lot to read into that verse, though, that he has no need for indirect unlawful wealth pursuits. I guess I could get on board with the first part that she manages the domestic affairs so well that his honest income that he brings to the home is sufficient and then increased by her. I could get on board with that part. It says some explain the husband doesn't need to go to war or take risks for plunder because her thrift and provision meet needs reliably. I don't know if I could see really that it would mean the husband doesn't need to go to war or take risks, but I could see that second part that her thrift and provision meets the needs of the household reliably with what he's brought into the home. I could definitely see that with this Proverbs 31:11 meaning that. It says even when gain is tied to prosperity, is another commentator. Even when gain is tied to prosperity, it's the result of mutual partnership and her virtue, not her as a direct source of financial windfall for him to expect. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's saying that a husband should not look for a wife of valor to be bringing direct financial windfall that he should expect from her. Now, I don't know if that boy, as we're reading through this of what she does bring to the house, she's considering fields and buying it. She's bringing her food from afar. She's making food or she's making clothes. She's selling these clothes in the market. She's doing all these things. Like that certainly seems like if he expected to get a wife of valor, that she would be bringing financial gain to the home um, in a, let's see, in a direct financial way. She's a direct source of financial windfall. So maybe I guess this commentator is saying she would be an indirect source because she takes what he gives her and then multiplies it. Well, that could see that. Um, so it kind of summarizes then the husband should expect financial gain from his wife. It's saying that's not really what this verse is indicating, but it could be understandable just reading it at the surface level because of that word gain in the verse or spoil. But I guess traditionally the church has interpreted this verse as meaning she provides security and sufficiency through her trustworthy, capable character rather than a promise of her delivering profits or enrichment to her husband as an expectation. Okay. So I think I could get probably on board with that um that's not exactly what this verse is trying to convey with the wife of valor. Although it does seem like, man, if she is this mighty warrior, girding up her loins with strength and dignity, she strengthens her arms. She's doing these things, then it seems to me you would expect her to bring monetary gain to the household as the verses are describing. All right, Shane says, I agree. She is no lightweight when it comes to contributing and value, but if using all Old Testament and New Testament context, then the wife was clearly under the husband's legal domain, but he and all were bound by covenant law. Okay, that's true. They'd be bound by covenant law there. Yeah, I could get on board with that. Um, yeah, that's good. I like that. So anyway, I don't know if there's any closing comments here about Proverbs 31. Let me hold on just a second here. Anybody got any closing comments out there? Let me get some. So I wanted to actually. Okay, Shane, you're saying basically you can't mistreat her. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Don't do that here. Let me go to so just because I feel like dragging this out a little while longer. I don't know if anybody likes the Aaron Wren show out there, but as I'm wrapping up my Proverbs 31 woman, um, this I gotta share. Let me share the screen here. Can I share screen? And let's see. Also share tab audio. Yeah, that's what. Okay, so hopefully this will come through because I don't know if you guys can. Oh, there we go. As I don't know if anybody saw this, but modern Christian, all right, is what.
Hello, it's Aaron. Welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is Emma Waters.
So Emma Waters, this woman came on talking about modern Christian womanhood, and I like Aaron Wren. He had for a while he had a newsletter and a show called The Masculinist, I think, or something like that about masculinity and things like that. And I I thought it was profound because I was like, well, Aaron Wren, I really like his show, topics he has. And he brought this woman on, and it was modern Christian womanhood. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, let me hear what this woman has to say. She wrote a book called the JL something or other. Let me see.
She is a policy analyst at the Center for Technology and the Human Person at the Heritage Foundation. She's the author of the new book, Lead Like JL, 7 Timeless Principles for Today's Woman of Faith.
All right. So Lead Like JL, 7 Timeless Principles for a Woman of Faith. Right. So I was like, oh, okay. All right. Here, modern woman at the Heritage Foundation. She got a couple kids. We're talking about modern Christian womanhood. And I thought, all right, what is the state of modern Christian womanhood? Because Aaron, he has some pretty legit folks on the show when he wants to talk about these things. Let me see if I can go. Let me go here. So she's critiquing girl boss feminism and trad wife romanticism.
Childcare is largely an even break for children. It can be good for them or not detrimental to them, depending on how you frame it. But anything more than that, your child's well-being starts to suffer. And so I think that's where that's really where my heart and my interest for this book comes in, which is to say it is very good to have passions and gifts. And if the Lord opens the door to work, then that can be a good thing. But if you're pursuing it in such a way that requires your children to pay the price, or your marriage to pay the price, where they're in full-time daycare or they're in these suboptimal positions, then I think that's where there needs to be a serious reckoning on the part of women, Christian women in particular, to ask how we can best structure work if you need to work, financially speaking, in such a way that it actually is best for your children. And Erica Komisar, a fantastic child psychologist, she's gone into a number.
So anyway, I was listening to that. I don't know if anybody watched this, but I was listening to this. She talks about how you need to structure your life in a way that's best for, and then she says, your children. And I just thought, well, what as I listened to this modern Christian woman, this is modern Christian womanhood. As she went through the things she was talking about, the JL model and blah, blah, blah. The woman that drove the tent stake through the guy's head in the Old Testament, the book of Judges, right? She didn't really ever talk about her husband and like how she was being a helpmeet to her husband, how she was, his helper, his easer, his support, his woman of valor, blah, blah, blah. It seemed like over and over again, as she would talk about her family life, the only thing she'd really talk about was being a mother to her I think it was 2 children that she had. And I was like, well, I guess that seems to be the state of modern Christian womanhood. Like the man, whatever. And the woman, yeah, we just focus on the kids. Even she said how she has continued to work in this Heritage Foundation and writing the books and blah, blah, blah. But she said how she structures her schedule so that she can be with her kids during the day, and then she can do her work then at night. And I thought, well, wait a minute though. Like if your husband's at home at night, then well, are you I understand that you want to be with your kids during the day, but are you helping your husband do anything at night then? Are you being with him, being his helper at night? Or is it just like, let me toss you the kids and I'm out the door? Then like, I don't know if the modern state of Christian womanhood really sounds that great according to her. Let me go on. I'm waiting for the duck hands to start. What's that? Is that me? I don't know, Shane. What are you talking about here? Sounds like Yurko says sounds like soft feminism to me. Yeah, I mean, really, Yurko, you're right. When I listen to her talking about the modern Christian womanhood, I was like, well, she literally had almost nothing to say about being a wife. It was all about how I can balance job duties with her duck hands. I don't know what that means, Shane. What's duck hands mean? I must be missing something. It was all about her, being a mother and balancing being a mother with continuing, I guess, to work at the Heritage Foundation and be an author. Which, is, whatever, I guess. Let me go back here. I don't know if she describes it.
Number of these resources that I highlight in Lead Like JL. But I think the orientation needs to be both that work is good and central to who we are, and yet that work shouldn't take the place of these primary responsibilities of marriage and motherhood. And we should actually be far more strategic in crafting our life. And the very last thing I'll say on this, it's interesting to me because like women are excelling in education and in jobs and across the board, for better and for worse, for the impact upon men in the US. And yet, for all the doors that are opening, for all the competitive bargaining power women are bringing to the table for some woke and some non-woke reasons, they're not using it very strategically. Like if I'm coming to the table, I'm saying, what is the best scenario for me and my family here? And then how does that potential job or that potential work fit in with that? But to come to the table and then be subservient to a job and to a boss when it's then you yourself and your children paying the price seems like a very poor trade-off that I think a number of
Yeah, now notice that language. This happened all throughout the interview with Aaron, and I kind of wish Aaron would have called it out. She said right there, I'm subservient to a boss, and that affects, hold on, let me go back here real quick. How'd she word that?
then you yourself and your children paying the price.
So it's you, yourself, and your children paying the price. And I thought, hold on a second now. What about the husband? Like this is modern Christian womanhood, right? She's writing this book about the JL, whatever, the JL option or whatever. But why? Hey, Striker, I see you out there. You can't listen to women like these. Well, I mean, we got to be aware of what's happening in the modern Christian woman here. But I understand what you're saying, But yeah, that's it. Like, how does it affect me, myself, and the children? And I thought, well, time out. Hold on a second now. What about how does it affect my husband? Like, there was no talk. And this was the whole, 45, 50-minute interview. How long is this interview? Here, 40 minutes. 40 minutes. That the whole time there was like hardly any mention at all of like my husband, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought it was all about me and the kids the whole time. And I thought, well, I guess that's the state of modern Christian womanhood. Sounds like just, I don't know if you'd say straight up feminism. They care about the kids that much or not. They probably still do. I mean, they probably, I don't like it. Well, let me see. Yurko, what are you saying? She's supposed to be subservient to a boss, namely her husband. Yeah. Yeah. She talks about being subservient to the boss, but there's no mention of, because I should really be looking to be a helper to my husband. No mention of that. I saw like, well, that's kind of odd. I don't know. Anyway, let me go. I think was that
seems like a very poor trade-off that I think a number of women are getting tired of making and are realizing the error of and are looking for a different way to sort of flip the script on that dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you make an important point, which is, there was maybe only 100 to 150 year period of time in which it was at all common for a man to go to a job to make cash working for someone else while the wife stayed home. Prior to that, both the husband and wife were both working at home because the economy was structured around the home and mostly agriculture. And it also seems like some of the trade-offs are most acute when the children are very young, and maybe less so as they get into school or different things. And then of course when they're grown up and they're doing their own things and they don't want you around anymore.
So
let me go to the end here. I think she made some points that I was thinking about.
Talk about it because I think it's so incredible for today. And then ultimately, then marriage as motherhood as this spiritual fight for the souls of your children, and really is the doorway through which women, I think, fully embrace the calling God has given them if they've been called to marriage and blessed with children. And then ultimately,
so again, like she's maybe I should back up there, but it seemed like this was kind of the theme of the whole thing. It was always like marriage and children, and then but it would always be just we only focus on the children. I heard like almost no language in this whole thing about, and I'm a helper to my husband. I'm here to help my husband. Like there was like nothing on that, and I thought, well, I guess it was a good title then of modern Christian womanhood. Like you.
Marriage as motherhood as this spiritual fight for the souls of your children, and really is the doorway through which women, I think fully embrace the calling God has given them if they've been called to marriage and blessed with children. And then ultimately, wise women as counselors and negotiators, because there's a number of wonderful examples of older women in the Bible who play these central roles, blessing the next generation of women, whether that's Miriam over the women in Israel, whether that's Deborah over Jael, Elizabeth over Mary, the mother of God, or Anna the prophetess, and all of these incredible women who play these central roles, really calling out the next generation of women, mentoring them and discipling them in the faith, and then blessing them to go on and carry the faith far beyond them. And so those were the 7 tent pegs that I thought were very essential for women to cultivate, with very practical tools for how you could start implementing that and growing at that in your own life.
The one that I wanted to ask about before we wrap up is the counselors, and especially like how young women can find like good counselors or mentors. I have found that it's
okay. So how can young women find good counselors or mentors? And I think this was a really good question that Aaron asked. Not that Emma would probably have. Well, I mean, she says she really doesn't have a very good answer for how to find this, but I think he's exactly right. Titus 2 talks about, the older women mentoring the younger women, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of what she's getting at in her book with the 7 tent stakes of whatever being a modern Christian woman or blah, blah, blah. I don't know, whatever she's talking about. But how do these women find good, solid female mentors? Where do they get them from? Blah, blah, blah. I would say yes. Yes. Amen. Yes. Where do they get them from? I don't know if anybody in the chat anybody got any advice out in the chat. Let's see. What's Yurko say? She's supposed to be subservient to, but oh yeah, I've read that one. The father is the one fighting for his children. The mother is a subordinate to him. This is just more mother worship. Yeah, that's right. Hey, Heroes Forge, Michael. All right. Hey, glad you joined here. Glad you joined. Let's see. So what's she say? How does a woman then on this show, how does she find a good mentor here? That's a great question.
Extremely hard for men to find a good mentor, because like good counselors are people who are going to tell you things you don't want to hear. And we just don't do that today. And it's,
yeah, I would agree. Let me stop at that. I'm stopping it too much, I'm sure, but I would agree. It's hard to find a good mentor. I was talking to an elder at my church a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about like marriage and blah, blah, blah. And I was saying, getting your wife to submit to you in all things and blah, 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 and getting her to do these things. Sometimes that's a challenge and yada, 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 and that kind of stuff. And he was like, well, now listen, now this guy is an elder. He's got 5 kids. He's like, he's old, and he has a good family, homeschool family. And, he raised a good family. And I was surprised though, because he was like, well, listen, you got to lead well and you have to love the wife and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and you can't expect her to submit in like all things. Or he's like, something like that. He's like, you can't expect her to submit in everything you're doing or you want to do and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, yeah. I said, but just to be clear, that is what Scripture explicitly says in Ephesians chapter 5. And he was like, whoa, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, come on, man. Like, what other area do we just take what Scripture explicitly says and just throw it over there and be like, well, I know that's what it says, but you can't really expect anybody to do that or blah, blah, blah. It's like, what? I mean, come on. I know it's hard. I 100% agree. I know it's hard in a marriage for a woman to do this. Yes, I know, but it's like, it does explicitly say that, right? Can we at least admit that? Like, it's kind of like we want to just ignore it. We want to put the blinders on or whatever. Anyway, all that to say, Shane, what do you, he's talking about? Sorry, not duck hands, but bird hands equal annoying or pretentious hand gestures used during speech where a speaker pinches their fingers together. Oh, like that. Okay, that's duck hands. All right. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what it was. All right. That's good. All right, here we go.
It seems people are very hesitant to do that to women. Like I find it hard to imagine. I gotta believe that in corporate America, a lot of male executives have dialed back from real mentoring of females coming up in the Me Too era because you don't want to take a chance of telling them something that they get upset about and then you're fired or something like that. Because I know from kind of personal experience, some of the stuff can be like really like invasive, if you want to call it that. And I look on social media, you go on Facebook, and it's like no matter how objectively stupid the plan that the person has just posted about that they're going to do is, it's like you go girl, this is awesome, you go get them. It's like, what are you talking about? This is stupid.
Yeah.
It seems like it's very difficult. How do you actually? It seems like you successfully found, like you mentioned, an older woman who told you about like first kid at 40 when you're trying to take out a new high-powered role stuff. How do you find people that can be good counselors for women, especially today?
Aaron, it's so.
How do you find a good female counselor for a woman? All right, that's the question. Here we go.
So hard. Even in Christian communities, it's so hard. And I think there's a couple of reasons for this.
Here we go.
One, I think there are sadly many cases of even older women in the church who may be older in age, but not necessarily older in wisdom. And maybe they haven't been faithful to these things throughout their own life. And so now they may have.
Oh my goodness. Now we're getting into some red pill talking points. We have older women in the church that aren't actually older in wisdom. What's that mean? Like my man from Entrepreneurs in Cars, Rich Cooper, one of the most profound things he said, as he said, many wives behave as the oldest teenager in the house. They behave as the oldest teenager in the house. And I thought, wow, man, that's one of the most profound things I've heard in a long time here. Now this one, she's just kind of verifying that here with that. Anyway, let's go.
A different perspective. They may even wish that they had done things differently, but they're not necessarily inclined to tell women to change things themselves. Sort of this fear that, well, who am I to speak into this woman's life? The second thing is something I like to call feminism for thee, but not for me. And it's this interesting experience.
Oh, now this was good. This is where I thought, man, feminism for thee and not for me. All right. Now she's going to describe something that I think is very true. Let's keep going.
Experience, and I've seen it in numerous places within the church, even where older women who lived very traditional lives themselves and seem pretty happy and content in their choices will then turn to younger women in my generation and be like, "Oh, honey, you don't need to hurry. You have time. Don't rush into marriage. Take time to enjoy your 20s, like enjoy your career, your social life, have kids later when they come."
Mm-hmm.
And telling this message totally contrary to the life that they lived and the decisions that they made. And it's throwing a massive identity crisis towards women in my generation who are thinking, well, what do you know that I don't know? Clearly, if you're telling me to delay kids and delay marriage, even though you did those things, did you regret it? This is like the Cut article where.
Yes, they regretted it. Yes, that's what you're saying. Like that's. All right, here, she's going to say this article.
The woman writes about how she regrets having kids. Like that's a terrible signal to send to younger women. And then I think you just have cases where there's a lack of courage and confidence.
Okay, so that's a terrible signal to send to younger women, even if that's really the way you feel about it. When she said that, I was just like, oh my goodness. Like we. So she's saying, here's the problem. It's feminism for thee and not for me. So we have these older women who are encouraging the younger women to live their best life now, to pursue like a fun job, some fun career that they think they'll like. Don't get married and submit to some boring average guy like I did back in the 70s or whatever. But you should just pursue your career and yah blah blah and have fun, go on trips with your girlfriends and blah blah. And that'd be so much more fun than what I did back in the 60s and 70s as an older woman, where I got married at like 20 and had kids and blah. I lived a traditional life. And now I'm here to tell you that, yeah, that sucked. And you shouldn't worry about doing that. You should live the life that's available to you, blah, blah, blah. And she's, she's saying, as we're talking about the Proverbs 31 woman. I guess this relates, maybe. I don't know. But she's saying these women, it's feminism for thee and not for me. Well, what if these women are actually telling the truth? What if these women are, that's really the way they feel? What if they think like, yeah, I really missed out and I wish I could do it over again, but I can't because now I'm old and I got married and man, now I'm stuck with this guy and I'm giving you the advice that you shouldn't do that. You should have fun while you're young and dumb and blah, blah, blah. Like I, I thought like maybe these women are actually being honest. Like maybe they're not trying to gaslight someone. And that is sinister. That's like really bad. That just shows the bad out there if this is what they're saying. And maybe that's a female mentor because this is what they really feel. Anyway, I don't know if anybody's got any comments in the chat about that. Just thought, oh my goodness. Yurko, you're right. Yurko says, Matt, we need to realize that we are all feminists to a lesser or greater extent, but yes, the feminist tree needs to be dug up by the roots. Ooh, amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Now, I know some people, some guys in the Manosphere, not that I'm in the Manosphere, even though I'm naming this the Manosphere Manvotional, not that I'm in it or whatever, but some guys don't like Pearl Davis. Everybody knows Pearl Davis. Some guys don't like her. I know Rollo Tomasi, the godfather of the red pill. Not that anybody knows what the red pill is, but the godfather of the red pill. Rollo Tomasi hates Pearl Davis. Like he hates her, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, Pearl Davis talks about how she's interviewed. I remember her saying this. The same kind of thing that this woman, Emma Waters, is saying. Pearl Davis says she's interviewed like 1,000 women. And I remember her saying that even the ones who have lived a traditional life, they still, just like Emma's saying, they still give the advice to the younger women. Don't do it. They warn them, please don't do it. You should go. And when you're young, you should have a career and travel around and have some boyfriends and have fun, blah, 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 because that's the way female nature is. And I thought, man, that's tough. That's rough. These are not Proverbs 31 women. These are not women of noble character. These are not women of valor, as it says, who are girding up their loins with strength for their household, for their husband. These are not these kind of women. But that is the average kind of woman. She's not a woman of valor. She's not rarer than rubies. She's just average. I guess that's what you expect from the average. I don't know. Anyway, this woman was saying, I thought that was interesting how she's saying it's so hard to find older females, as Titus 2 says. They need to teach the younger women. Maybe that's why we have such a crisis here, because none of these older women are teaching the younger women anything. They're telling them, hey, yeah, don't do what I did. Don't get married young and have children and be a stay-at-home mom. Don't do that. like you should go get a career, blah blah blah. Maybe that's why we have a problem. I don't know.
Among younger,
Sort of.
older women in the church who don't feel like they're equipped to address some of the problems that women are dealing with today. And sometimes that's true. They're not engaged in what's happening politically and culturally. So they may have lots of wisdom, but they don't actually know what's going on enough to apply it well. And then I think among my generation, there's not enough women who are seeking out mentors. If you have 60-second videos on TikTok or Instagram that are telling you 6 steps to attracting the man of your dreams, 7 steps to being the fulfilled woman you want to be, 4 steps to cultivating virtue, there's always a number and then a really easy way to apply it.
There's not enough women seeking out mentors, but you just said that if they do seek them out, that they're terrible. Like, well, maybe they shouldn't seek them out then, if that's what you're saying. Like, if they just give bad advice, maybe they should just not do that and stick to, I don't know, stick to TikTok or something. Like, I don't know what they're supposed to stick to, but if that's all they get is more feminist advice, it's like wherever they go. If they go to TikTok, feminist advice. If they go to the old women, feminist advice. If they go anywhere you go, like Yurko's saying, it's just we're all feminists, I guess. Is the the ship is sinking. It's just going down. I don't know what else to say here. No, we're getting it turned around anyway. I don't remember what shit.
That's what's passing for wisdom and for discipleship today, and it is for so many women. Then you have this massive break in any real intergenerational, meaningful relationship between older and younger women. And I do think, to your point about men, I've been very grateful for faithful older men in my life who have been very honest in brainstorming things about marriage and family and work. But there is a really high cost to it, and there's a risk because of for multiple reasons. And I think that's probably why there's a lot of wisdom in Paul setting it up as older women to younger women, that there's a way that.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk in that. I don't know if anybody knows that. Boy, if you're an older man and you want to advise a younger woman in the church, there's a lot of risk there. Like, look out. You get, there's a woman I know on saw her post on Facebook about how she can't find a man and blah blah blah. Can't find any good Christian men and blah 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 blah. She's from my former church, and so I posted on what she was saying. And I said, listen, I used to teach the singles class at the church that we went to there, and I said, what I've noticed is most of the women have, their standards are too high. Like, they're just too high, blah blah blah, and that they need to lower those standards some, and they could all probably have a nice guy. Like, he's not going to be awesome, but they could have a nice guy. Well, boy, that didn't go over very well. And I had all these women that were chiming in on the Facebook post, like, how dare you say this, blah, 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 blah. No, I don't care. I'll throw it out there like whatever. But I could see how, in the church, like she's saying, if you're in church, you're an older man in the church and you want to advise a younger daughter in the faith about how she needs to get married and submit to a man and blah, blah, blah. Man, you'd probably be running out of that church on a rail. They're throwing rocks at you on the way out. But yeah, anyway, it'd be rough. Let's see, Yurko, what are you saying here? Good women are raised by godly men. It all goes back to biblical patriarchy. Yeah, I agree, Yurko. That's right. That is correct. Yes, I agree with you there. Heroes Forge, Michael says, need more based wives discipling the women. Yes, we do. Where are these based wives doing this? Like, where are they? I don't know. Michael says, that requires more patriarchal husbands actually holding the line. Yes, I agree. But, I mean, when you hold the line, they got to submit. I mean, they got to follow the line too. I guess that's the art. That's the art we got to do. You go into that, I know, Michael, on your channel. I appreciate that. You going into like how to hold that line, so that the women, want to follow. That's good. It's Mark. Mark, shout out to Mark from the Philippines. Mark, it's easy to be a Christian. Just worship women. Dude, I wish that wasn't true. I wish that wasn't true, but my friend, that there is some truth in that, and it is sad. Ugh, that's so sad. That's so sad. Actually, I put a vid out. Sorry, I put a video out. What was it last year? Maybe a couple years ago, but it was talking about the caption has Casanova on it, and it's talking about the cheat. I think the title of it was the cheat code for the church. And I had realized then that the cheat code in the church is if you are a man who has a wife who's really in love with you, that you are a Casanova and you have enchanted your wife to really be in love with you. That is a cheat code in the church to holding status in the church. If your wife really looks like she is just so in love with you, then that does seem to gain you status in the church. Like it's a cheat code. Just having a wife who seems in love with you. Because we equate in the church, we equate biblical love, the agape love, with the romantic love. And that's sad. That's semi blasphemy to equate romantic love with agape love, with God's kind of love. But we do it. And so if people in church see that your wife is just so in love with you, that is the cheat code to having status in the church. It's sad. I wish that wasn't true, but it does seem to be true. That's what I've observed. Mark says, no, it won't. It will make the other woman hate her. Wait a minute. What am I talking about? Oh. Wait a minute. What are you saying here, Mark? I'm not getting it here. Any woman that set the bar or holds women to a standard will be hated by women. Pearl is case in point. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying if you find a woman who's actually a good mentor to the women in the church, that she will actually be hated by the other women in the church. If she holds women to a standard, let's even say, I think I put out a video a couple months ago on modesty standards. And I think because Dalrock had wrote about modesty a while back, and he had talked about, I think, the same thing you're kind of talking about here, that if there's a bar for modesty, like there needs to be a bar for modesty in the church. But I think it's like you're saying, if anybody sets that bar, they're going to be run out of church on a rail here. It's bad. So Pearl is case in point that she's hated by other women. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Pearl is hated by other women. Yeah. I don't think I've ever, well, other than Andrew Wilson's wife. Shoot, what's her first name? Mrs. Wilson, whatever her name is. I guess she likes Pearl, but that's about it. Although Pearl, I think, kind of rags on her and Andrew a little bit because Andrew is cucked by her. So anyway, yeah, it's neither here nor there. Shane says, could you imagine Old Testament men walking into a modern day church? They would be very quickly hated and dismissed. Yeah, you're right, man. If David walked in there, a real man, David, he was writing checks and snapping necks, walked up to King Saul with the head of Goliath and said, what's up, Saul? Holding his head because he chopped off his freaking head. He walked into a church with his 7 wives or whatever he had. Yeah, you can't be like that. That's not going to work. You know what I mean? Well, forget about the 7 wives things, but just being, that kind of man, you're chopping off heads and stuff. Like you can't do that. Mike says Heroes Forge 50% agape, 40% storage. Oh yeah, the storage. Yeah, we were talking about that. The storage, 10% Eros is a good mix. All right, yeah, I can get on board with that. Michael says so many women just hate standards anyway, not compatible with patriarchy. Yeah, that's true. They don't want standards. We got to have some standards though here. Well, modern Christian woman, modern Christian womanhood, modern Christian womanhood. Here, Yurko, Matt, did you ever watch Joel Webbin's episode with Tim Gordon on his documentary, What a Woman Is? Oh, Yurko, I got to watch that. Yes. I was going to buy that because I know it's like $2. And even though I'm cheap, I'm not that cheap. So I'll buy it. I know actually, yeah, Heroes Forge. Michael, you said you had watched it. It was excellent. I think you told me you watched it with your daughter. I need to do that too, actually. But I need to watch it first and then I'll watch it with my daughter. That was what put out by Candace Owens, I guess, whatever organization she's with or has or whatever. I think they put it out. Michael Heroes Forge says Joel did a thing with Tim. Got to check that out. Yeah, I need to actually, I don't know if I've looked up the video that Joel did a commentary on his video, or he probably just maybe talked about it or something. Yeah. I don't know. Now, Tim and Joel both. I don't know if I agree with their TradCon woman must be retired to a life of leisure viewpoint. I don't know if I'm on board with that. I think I am more digging into more of the lion lifestyle, but I do need to lay that out a little better. I know I haven't really done a great job laying out my thoughts on the lion lifestyle. I've just kind of touched here and there on it. I need to do better at laying that out, I think, for a coherent vision of what is the lion lifestyle. I just don't like Joel and Tim's vision for patriarchy. Just seems very gynocentric. And that's why I kind of bristle against it, because it just seems so gynocentric that I don't know if I appreciate it very much. But anyway, yeah, that's good stuff. If you like Aaron Wrenn, I do really appreciate Aaron Wrenn. He's had some good stuff over the years. Had some really good guests over the years. He had fairly recently, he had Michael Foster on his show, who wrote the book It's Good to Be a Man, which is a very good book. I really like this book. We did it in a Bible study a few years ago. And so I was a little disappointed with Michael Foster when he came on the show with Aaron Wrenn, because he seemed just very jaded on life. I was just like, man, this guy, he just seemed like he was just, done with all that. Like Michael Foster had spoke at the 21 convention. He was doing some Manosphere stuff, and it was pretty cool. And he was kind of the Christian voice in the Manosphere and blah, blah, blah. And I thought that was really cool. And I mean, now he just comes on and he just seems like he's just jaded towards everything. At least the last show that he was on Aaron Wrenn with, it was just like, man, what's going on with him? Anyway, Yurko, Matt, housework is not a life of leisure. That's what the Proverbs 31 woman did. Well, okay, that's a good point, because you were making the point that the household is that when she's buying fields and she's planting vineyards and doing those kinds of things, that's in the realm of the household. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If we're gonna put those in, if we're gonna put like real estate and farming in the realm of the household, then I could get on board with that. I see what you're saying. Yeah. But I don't think I've ever heard Tim Gordon or Joel Webbin describe their wife, multiple wives, their wife, as doing the things that the Proverbs 31 woman is doing. Like Tim Gordon specifically says, I know I've hit on this about 100 times, but he says his wife likes to watercolor and play the flute. That's not what I see in the woman of valor described in Proverbs 31, which is why I wanted to kind of go through this Bible study here. I mean, she is described very differently as as a warrior queen. Really. I mean, boy, the language used there is very profound. I think it's pretty awesome. Heroes Forge, Michael says, thinking about doing a weekly live stream, don't want to overlap with any of our folks. Anyone have suggestions for reasonable time slots? Thinking Saturday noon. Yeah, that sounds good. Saturday noon. I've been trying to be consistent at Tuesday night at 9:00 Central Standard Time. I know I missed last week because I had something come up, but been trying to do Tuesday nights at 9:00 or, somewhere about 9:00 range. But yeah, Saturday noon, that'd be good. Live streams are fun. I know I do like to jump on This Is Shaw. He does the live stream Saturday night, like late Saturday night. And it's usually fun. He's usually got some fun topics, got some fun people on there. I really appreciate This Is Shaw, his perspective on the dowry and that kind of thing. Maybe gets into bride price a little bit, but especially the dowry. It's good stuff. But Heroes Forge, I appreciate your perspective too, man. You've had some pretty awesome guests come on the show here the past few weeks. Like, been tuning in. That's some good stuff there. And actually, a male space like I had. Let's see, or I was on a male space with Bradley. Man, he's had some fantastic guests come on his show, and actually, he's doing. It's been was Dr. Stephen Baskerville, which I had on my show last year. Mamel Space got him to be his co-host, really, which was pretty awesome. Like, because man, he has some really great insights too into these kinds of topics. And so it's cool to see those coming together. Paul Elam's been coming on those shows. I appreciate Paul Elam. His perspective's really good. Especially I want to hear more about his thoughts on like gynocentrism in the church is what I really would like to hear him dig into more. So, oh man, Mark, how's the draft going over there? Well, hopefully we're not starting up the draft anytime for the Iran war, if that's what you're referring to. Although I'll sign up, man, that'd be pretty awesome. I'll jump in a tank or something. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, it wouldn't be cool to get shot dead or anything, but it'd be cool. Be in a tank or something. Let's see. Gotta line up with a new slate of guests. Okay, Michael says got to get a new slate of guests. Yeah, that's right. Get some good people. I don't know, Michael, if you thought about Pete Rambo. I had him on last year. I like Pete. He's a good guy. I know, you don't, or at least me right now, boy, I'm kind of in trouble. I don't want to go into that, but anyway, I like Pete. He's a cool guy. Need to talk to him. Actually, you know what? I need to talk to him more about the lion lifestyle. This thing that I'm trying to lay out here. I need his thoughts on patriarchy and how that would line up a little more. There, anyway. Anyway, I got to call it a night here. This is about the longest Manosphere Manvotional I've ever done. This is good. I know I pulled up Aaron Wren's show. I just thought it was kind of bad how the modern Christian womanhood. And I was like, boy, modern Christian womanhood doesn't sound very good. Anyway. Oh, all right, Shane. See you chat again. Yeah, I might see. Pete's a good guy. I like him a lot. Man, I wish we lived close. I'd go hang with Pete over there. Anyway, I gotta close it. I gotta close out here tonight one with, hey, Christ is winning. He is building his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Until next time, this is Post Millennial Man.